For my final report, I am asking the question, what impact have federal tax policies such as the income tax, inheritance tax, and the capital gains tax had on the accumulation of wealth by a few individuals and their families in the United States? For the next 20 slides, I would like to answer that question. A brief history of U.S. federal tax rates in general shows that there's been a trend of rising and falling that generally coincides with periods of economic growth or economic decline. These periods also show that as time has gone on, many presidents have decided to take it into their own hands to change and adjust tax rates as they see fit. Tax brackets do have an enormous impact on the accumulation of wealth in the United States. As you can see on the left and the right, these are two tax brackets that show the dramatic decrease compared to previous tax rates and the impact of the economy after they were enacted. Accumulation of wealth by a certain number of individuals can have a detrimental effect on how that money is passed through the rest of the economy. The inheritance tax and capital gains tax are two means for people to continue to accumulate wealth without it regenerating into the economic system. Tax brackets and taxes collected have an incredible impact on national spending goals. The United States has always prided itself on strong infrastructure, excellent education, and a place where everyone can be treated equally. With money lying in the hands of very few, those goals can transition into much more politically motivated spending objectives. Taxes and inequality also come down to a very simple issue: political ideology. Many people in the Democratic Party see the redistribution of wealth, higher taxes, as a primary goal, while Republicans often find that more conservative monetary policy, less regulation, and lower taxes will lead to a stronger and better economy. Political ideology also begs the question, who are the real job creators that spur this economic growth? The corporate interests on the left or the mom and pop on the right? At an individual level, these two are not created equal at all, and this can impact the way that they grow their businesses and continue to contribute to the economy. Over the last 70 years, the middle class, which is the backbone of the American economy and where most of its spending power comes from, has dramatically decreased. While the lower classes have become poorer, the upper classes have become far richer. This is due to the continuation of unfair tax policies towards the people that are actually spending the money and driving the American economy. You may ask, well, if these people are getting such large tax breaks in the highest percentile of income, then are they spending it, adding it to the economy? The answer is no. Most American households that are in the middle class are the ones spending the majority of their money, while the upper classes keep it and use the tax breaks that they are afforded to store the money away. As wealth inequality has increased, so has class mobility. In the last 60 years, we have seen women, minorities, and other groups enter the workforce, earn more money. However, this trend is starting to take a shift towards negative. With the current statistics, class mobility is declining far more than it was 50 years ago. The inheritance tax or estate tax applies to the wealth left behind when someone passes away. In many cases, this applies to a family member, a relative, and for most people, the wealth inherited is not that great. However, for people that already have mass amounts of money, such as the Walton family or the Disney family, they see a dramatic increase in their wealth due to the very, very low rates that they pay, sometimes as low as the rates of someone inheriting $10,000. The capital gains tax is another tax that I am discussing today, and you can tell very quickly that oftentimes this can be an indicator to an economic downturn. The money that is taxed through capital gains is through earned income and not from general day-to-day work. This is how people with already acquired wealth can manage to make that wealth grow for them at a lower tax rate than someone might pay working a 9-to-5 job. Opportunities for success in the United States are a dwindling prospect. With the high cost of living and education becoming a major factor in people's lives, there's very little time to consider how you're going to manage your money or how you're going to get ahead in society. The federal income tax has risen and fallen since the Great Depression. This was because before the Great Depression, the tax rate was very low. After the recovery of the Depression, tax rates were raised in some cases to almost 97%. At this point in time, the economy was booming. The tax rates for lower income workers have remained almost stagnant, while we continue to give tax breaks to the top earners. The most dramatic tax break in recent history, aside from President Trump's tax plan, was from Ronald Reagan and his trickle-down economics theory. This set the stage for presidents following him to continue to lower tax rates for the wealthy and let the tax rates for the middle class and lower class remain the same. As I said previously, the money that these wealthy individuals are accumulating is not seeing downtown. It's going to Wall Street, out of the country, and not being invested in infrastructure or any other public institution through higher taxes. In many cases, the money just sits in the market until that person has acquired enough wealth, then passes away, and it continues to go on to a family member. The accumulation of wealth by a very few has led to massive issues with inequality. While a few Americans get to enjoy the lavish lifestyle of multiple homes, private planes, expensive cars, middle America and the lower classes are experiencing huge issues with loan debt, housing costs, expensive buying food, and even getting their children to school. All of this inequality can be attributed to the poor choices in Washington about tax policy and the way that we decide to distribute the wealth in this country. When the wealth distribution gap is so high, it can lead to issues in competition. Products and services may become too expensive for households of more meager income and wealth to support, while the wealth of some others can create products that are only designed for those who can pay the premium price for it. As we saw in 2008, when capitalism destabilizes, it can lead to massive failures in our government and in our economic system. We are based on a capitalist system, so no competition means no capitalism. The reality behind tax policy is simple. If we look at history, and even this graph that you can see here, where we had a varied amount of tax brackets that sometimes would not even seem to be that great of difference. It is up to us to look back into the past and see how we can correct these wrongs that we continue to commit. Tax policy is something that can keep our country a fair and equal place. With wealth inequality on the rise, we will not remain a healthy country until we can do something about this. Federal tax policy has played a major role in the shrinking of the middle class, the dwindling opportunity for class mobility, mass accumulation of wealth by some individuals. That's why we must look to the past and find out what tax policy will work for our country so we do not continue on this path of destruction.